Hi everyone, I'm Wendy Juma here from the ringside seat, and I'm here with my little but big broski, Kahinde. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's been a couple of weeks. We had a couple of weeks off, didn't we?
Yeah.
Not that there wasn't any boxing on. I mean, we had Shakur Stevenson. He fought last week and won, as expected, really. But he put on a good performance. We're not going to talk about that. I think there's bigger things to come for him. He's gonna maybe grow in weight as well, and probably tackle some of these guys at lightweight
Right.
eventually. Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking really good. Proper, real skilled and slick and hitting people flush. You know. I like him. I like him a lot. He doesn't rarely gets hit as well. But moving on, yeah, there's bigger things to talk about at the moment. So tonight we're going to talk about 4 different subjects. The first one is going to be about the big fight coming up this weekend. It's going to be Caleb Plant against Canelo, and that's for all the belts at super middleweight, 168. Next up, we're going to talk about Sean Porter and Crawford. They're fighting on the 20th of November. And that's at welterweight, and that's a big fight. I believe we get onto that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the AJ, just a little bit of the aftermath of this AJ interview that we both watched and we both found to be kind of interesting. It was like an hour by Kugan Cassius. He on his show, on his channel, he had this AJ doing an interview, and this is like post defeat against when he lost all his belts to Usyk, and some question marks were raised from that we're going to discuss. And finally, we'll talk about Tyson Fury and Dylan White. Looks like maybe they could be fighting, or they will be arranging to make that fight happen in the future. So, how you feel about that? Four rounds to go. You think you can go 4 rounds tonight? Or are you too tired?
No, it's interesting. No, I'll be off to waffle on.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, everyone, thanks to everyone for tuning in. I mean, this is what we do here. This is a ringside seat. We have a little observation in our point of view, what we see. We love talking boxing. We've always loved boxing. It's been in our blood. We're not like the Gypsy family, but we have boxers in our family. We've both boxed as well, not to any sort of level, but we've both trained and had a few fights and things, sparred a lot. And we both love the sport. So we're here just to give our observations. So first of all, it's going to be Canelo this weekend. Are you watching it, by the way? You're going to watch this fight?
It's one of those ones where Canelo, I mean, you've got to stay up till 4 a.m. to watch it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Really. And is it really that competitive enough to say stay up till 4 a.m. for?
Well, you know it's when promoters and all they sell a fight, they build it up, and I think what is Canelo's maybe the biggest guy in boxing right now.
Yeah,
and obviously the whole country of Mexico behind him as well. So he's really pushed a lot. So when they're trying to sell a fight, I think they try to make the opponent put him over. They want to put the opponent over to say, "Oh God, who's going to win?" and make it like interesting. But I'm not so sure. I'm not sure about this Plant guy. I think Billy Joe Saunders was more polished than him, more experienced, better amateur record, everything else. This guy's come along, and I've been surfing through his record as well, the Plant, and he hasn't beaten anyone of note, but he's a champion. Yeah. And it makes me wonder, maybe he's been promoted correctly. He's got to that sort of platform. Maybe he looks good. You know, he can sell tickets or whatever it is. He's obviously got himself at that stage now where he's in the spotlight, you know, and he's the last belt holder remaining, because if Canelo takes this belt, it'll be the first guy, I think, at super middleweight, which is a division which has only been going since maybe the mid-80s, I think.
Yeah.
And we've had some decent champions, but it'll be the first time it will be like someone who unifies the whole division as well. So we've got Canelo is 56, one defeat and 2 draws against Plant. And sorry, Canelo's 31 years old. And we've got Plant, he's 29 years old, and he's got 21-0, and he's got 12 KOs. The best win for Plant is against the guy who beat James DeGale. What's his name?
Caleb Truax.
Go, that's the one.
Yeah.
And beyond that, he beat another unbeaten guy, Mike Lee, I think his name was, but nothing. Yeah, pumped up record. So I'm a bit wary about what he can do. And in his last fight against Charox, whatever his name is, he was struggling towards the end of the fight and under a bit of pressure as well. So I'm not so sure. And then obviously, can you name? I mean, we've got Canelo, who's been around for a long time. He's come up through the weights, even though at one point I think he was fighting. Did he start at welterweight?
I feel like he did start at welterweight, yeah, and he fought Cotto's brother, I think, at the lower weights as well.
Yeah, so he's really, I mean, it's difficult because he's such a big frame. So for him to be coming through from fighting that sort of in such a low division, and he took his time coming up, didn't he? He didn't sort of jump straight away to middleweight. He sort of waited for maybe GGG to get on a bit before he stepped up to that division. He's been carefully managed throughout his career, but he's a talented. You can't deny when it comes to skills. I mean, Canelo's top draw. I mean, just going to go through some of Canelo's best wins. Do you remember the Mosley fight?
Yeah.
What do you remember about
past
that?
It. Mosley was past it, definitely. And it was a good fight for Canelo at that stage of his career to fight an experienced fighter like Mosley. And Canelo dominated, really.
Trout, do you remember the fight with Trout?
Yeah, that was a good fight, wasn't it? That was a good fight. I thought Trout had some moments in there. I remember Canelo knocked him down with a counter right. That was a very good fight. That was like just before a couple of fights before the Mayweather fight, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because that was
that really kind of put Canelo got everyone's attention on Canelo, that win, you know.
And then there was Lara.
Yeah.
What do you think about that fight with Lara? The Cuban South middleweight.
Yes. And I think apart from the Mayweather fight, that's been Canelo's toughest fight that he's had in his career, because a lot of people say Lara won that fight. It's one of those ones tough to score, because I would say they scored it for the aggressor, because Canelo was the guy who was being the aggressor, but Lara was more slick. And I believe on the CompuBox, I thought Lara, I believe that he got the most punches, you know. So, but in
what
terms
do you think
of
about
well, it's hard because sometimes it's like a guy could throw the most punches and score the most, but you always got to look at the power punches because they're the ones that stand out. I remember when Roy Jones fought Antonio Tarver for the first time, and Tarver scored like 8 or 9 more punches, but Jones's power punches were, about 10, 15 more, and they're the ones that stand out in rounds, aren't they? So rather than just attack.
Because, sometimes you think, well, someone could have had a good round where they threw a ton of more punches, but it's done round by round, isn't it? Not over the whole fight. So
exactly.
Sometimes, it's like with the first Wilder and Fury fight, they're only throwing like 10, 11 punches per round, and that kind of thing. So there wasn't much between them. If you go on the punch count, it wasn't much between them. So it's even more hard to score. But what are you like? Because I like to score just by the eye, just observe and just take it all in, and then decide who's scoring, who wins rounds. Do you score that the same?
Yeah, I try and do it by rounds because
Well, you have to. Yeah, that's how it's done.
When there's a big fight, I get my little piece of paper out and I just score it round by round.
But by round, but you're just you get in the field, just watching the fight, or do you actually? Oh, that was.
It's hard because sometimes you get swayed by the commentators as well. It's really hard to not get swayed by what the commentators are saying. But I just really try and focus on who's doing the most work and slick, who's the most slick, and who's really kind of looks
ring generalship.
Ring generalship. That's what I'm looking at. That's
interesting you say that, because there's a few guys that I really respect in boxing. Know a far lot more than any of us, and they say they like to watch the fight in quiet, just turn off the sound and watch it themselves, because it's true, you do get caught up sometimes. And for me, when I'm like behind the fight or watching a fight late at night live, I get emotional, my heart's racing, or you thinking, God, this is one out, and you lose sight of actually just score the fight, just score it. So the next day you might watch it, or the next week you might watch a fight and score it differently. So so that Lara fight with Canelo was an interesting fight. I do think Canelo won it. I've watched it a few times now. I think Canelo did do enough, but it did sort of show some sort of vulnerability. Maybe it's kryptonite, someone who's slick and they can move. Maybe.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Anyone who's kind of slick, has got good hand speed, and shows good angles is going to give Canelo problems.
So obviously, moving on now, he fought Cotto. Do you remember that fight?
Yeah, it's for the middleweight title.
Yeah, and I don't know what Cotto was doing up at middleweight. I mean, Cotto's
starting. He beat
up
Sergio Martinez, didn't he? It was like more of a catchweight kind of thing, where I feel anyway.
He's finished, wasn't he, Martinez?
Yeah, Martinez was finished. He had loads of injuries, and it was an easy fight to get the belt. And then Canelo stepped up, and Cotto's got losses on his record. He's a very good, solid fighter, but.
Do you think because this is after Cotto's fight with Margarito when he got really damaged, with the gloves incident, and maybe he wasn't the same after that. But I do rate Cotto. I think he's one of the best Rican fighters there's ever been, up with Tito and some other greats from the past, But but you know what's interesting as well with the Cotto fight, some people scored it quite close and said it was closer than it could have been.
He had good moments in that fight, very good moments. I think Cotto was still the more experienced guy, wasn't he? Yeah. And I think it showed in rounds. Cotto, did a lot of good work, but I just think Canelo probably just did more again. That's all it was.
Next, his other win would be after a draw with GGG, Golovkin. This is a few years ago. They had two fights. First one was called a draw when most people thought Golovkin won it. The second time around, it went to Canelo. What are your thoughts on those two fights and Golovkin as a fighter as well at middleweight?
The first fight, I thought Canelo did well. And I'm saying that because I think Jacobs fought Triple G first, and everyone was saying how well Jacobs did. That's the first time Triple G's looked a bit, vulnerable. Well, not say vulnerable, but someone's looked good against him, and he wasn't as dominant. And I thought Canelo had similar things with like Jacobs, but I gave the fight to Triple G against Jacobs because I thought Triple G was more in control. Again, ring championship and everything like that, and Jacobs was on the back foot, even though he was doing some good stuff. But with the first Canelo Triple G fight, I when I originally watched it, I thought, Canelo could have won that, or it could have been a draw. I had it either Canelo or a draw. Okay. And then I watched it again about a week or two later, and I scored it for Triple G. I was like, actually, Triple G's done better work here. He's been a bit more aggressive. Even though Canelo has had good moments, but I think Triple G probably did more. Where Canelo, he kind of coasted in a lot of rounds, like James Toney used to do. Okay. And, I thought Triple G did more of the work, and Canelo maybe didn't deserve to win to take the titles. But the second fight, I gave it to Canelo. But Triple G probably should have got the first.
Obviously, I thought Canelo won both fights, in my opinion. I mean, it's all about opinions, isn't it? It's what you see. Yeah. I felt that Canelo, when it was so close between two top guys, I thought I gave Canelo just based on his slickness. He was really intelligent, his slickness and his ability to sort of catch him clean, and cover up, and learned so much. He's learned a lot since he lost to Floyd Mayweather. I thought he just a little bit. That's what took it for me. But then again, I understand, obviously, it's not a robbery either way. I understand why people might have said Golovkin might have won that. But second fight, I think,
would you say that Canelo performed better the second fight than the first?
Yeah, I think what it was, I think Golovkin's getting to an age now where it was like they should have fought maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And maybe been a lot more
competitive.
Clear. Yeah, competitive and clear that when no one wants to fight GGG when he was bossing it. No one really wanted to step up, and I think Canelo could have stepped up. I felt he was draining himself, getting down to get fight like middleweight and waiting for the right opportunity to come up. So he's come at the right time, I believe. Just my theory anyway, and I just feel he's taking him at the right time in his career. And I think after the first fight, which was really tough for both men, I thought it affected Golovkin more. And since then, Golovkin's never really been the same. Obviously, he's getting older and older. Yeah. He's not going to be same fighter he was, you know, and because of the way he fights as well, I think it's going to be difficult.
You can't sustain that for old age.
Yeah. And look at him; he takes a lot. He's got a great chin, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But that obviously that can't take you on forever. Eventually, you're going to get stopped. So that was a great win. Do you think that's probably his best win? Just talk about he beat Jacobs as well.
Yeah,
he beat Jacobs. He beat Kovalev, and he beat Billy Joe Saunders. There's beat other guys as well.
Right.
These are the guys I'm just naming. So anything about Jacobs' win or the Kovalev or Saunders win that you want to mention about Canelo?
Jacobs, I thought that was a good win because again, Triple G fought Jacobs as well, and I think Canelo was more dominant against Jacobs than Triple G was. Jacobs didn't have any answers. Again, he was on the back foot. He was just going back the whole fight. He just looked afraid, you know. He didn't have any answers for Canelo. Kovalev, you know, I would have rated the win a lot more if he fought him because Andre Ward pretty much finished Kovalev. Pretty much, that's my assessment of it. Kovalev was never the same fight after the Andre Ward loss. But still have to give Canelo credit for stepping up a higher weight and knocking a guy out like that. I think Canelo was patient the whole fight because he was losing rounds, but then he got to him. He was obviously quite confident that he would get to him in the end, and
There's been a suggestion that, which I feel as well, that Kovalev, you know, took a dive. Not to say took a dive, but didn't. I'm not saying take a dive, but didn't give it his all. I think I expect him to be the bigger man, more dominant, stiff jab, but I just felt he wasn't giving it his all. This is not just me. This is observation from people that I respect as well have said the same thing. So I don't know. I think there's something in that. If you look at the fight,
maybe because even the way the fight ended, the knockout, it was like, not say dubious, but it was just like it felt like he gave up more so than it was like a flush knockout. You know, it felt like he just didn't, you know, just didn't.
So anyway, so after that, he's gone up to light heavyweight. He's come back down to super middleweight, 168 pounds, and he sort of stayed there now because obviously now he's accumulating all the belts. Beat Billy Joe, and now he's going to beat Plant. Well, I'm saying he's going to beat Plant. I think he will beat Plant and unify the division. I think it's all about legacy for him now because he's had that one loss against Floyd Mayweather, and that was sort of like changed. That was devastating, I think, for him to lose in that way so easily. And since then, his skill base and everything else has really improved. I think the only way to get a legendary status is by doing things like this, like unifying divisions and being a 4 or 5 weight, you know, belt holder, which is something he's en route to doing. I don't know, maybe welter, light middle, light heavy, 4 or 5, 4 weight champion or something like that. So he's been established. If he does get all the belts now at 168 pounds, I just want to because it's going to be like crucial. It's going to be legendary for him. I'm going to name a few other top champions at this division. I just want you to know.
Well, David Benavidez is the guy, the one that I think Canelo should be facing next.
Okay, but he's the one who's.
He had the WBC. I think he had to vacate it for some reason, but he's still undefeated, and I think he's a solid fighter. And he looks strong at the weight. Because my thing is with Canelo, it's like he fought Billy Joe, and I thought, maybe Billy Joe could give him trouble. But when you see the weighing and all that, you think Canelo is so strong at that weight. Like no one else looks like as natural as he does at that weight. And I think this is why a lot of fighters, they're having trouble staying in there with him.
Yeah. So you're true about David Benavidez. He's a good fighter. He's quite exciting, throws a lot of punches.
Yeah,
and big at the weight and all this kind of thing. So hopefully that will be made. Maybe he's too much of a threat. Maybe I don't know how's going. But he's happy to fight Plant and the other guys. But let's see what happens after this one. But anyway, hopefully that one a good shout there. That one. Hopefully that fight will come off. But so I'm going to name some champions of the past. We had James Toney. Didn't stay too long at 168 pounds, but he was champion. What do you think? How do you think Canelo would fare up against him briefly?
If James Toney was active like he was when he won his titles first early, I don't think Canelo would have a chance. No.
Okay, I'm the same with you. I think James Toney. I love James. My favorite fighter of all time. And I just think.
But Toney would have too much skill for Canelo. I mean, Canelo's got a good skill set, but Toney can stand in there with him.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, so we say you both say Tony.
Yeah.
Roy Jones, 168 pounds against.
no one could touch Roy Jones in his prime. That's just for me. Like,
Did he have a record called that? Called No, I Can't Be Touched or something?
Yeah. He did have a track called Can't Be Touched. Yeah. And you must have forgot as well. Like, why you even asking this question? You must have forgot.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Roy Jones.
This is the thing. Roy Jones is like the speed's too much.
Yeah.
Tony's got a better skill set than Roy Jones as a boxer, but Tony couldn't get anywhere near him because of the speed. It was like he's a speed.
He's weight trained. He had to lose something.
Well, whatever. Look at what Jones did to Hopkins as well, So Jones, no one could touch him in his prime.
So Jones, obviously, you think beats Canelo at that weight, 168 pounds. What about Sven Otka?
I don't even know what to ask. Come on now.
All right.
Yeah, even Robin Reed beat Sven Otka. That was like a.
Hold on, he's unbeaten.
But that's because
let me give you the scenario. It's Canelo best sent off Sven Otka ever in Germany.
Right.
Who wins?
Right. This is the thing. That's actually a good question, because if Canelo is allowed to throw punches, then Canelo would stop him. But if it's in Germany, with that referee that was at the Robin Reed fight, he wasn't allowing the other fighter to throw punches in Sven Otka.
Yeah.
He was like, every time he threw a punch, the referee was stopping Robin Reed from throwing punches. Then Canelo wouldn't stand a chance, even if Canelo's mum was one of the judges, like Robbie Reed was saying.
I think Charles Brewster as well. I'm gonna throw Charles. I haven't got him on the list, but Charles Brewster. Is it
who?
Brewster? Charles Brewster. He fought Kawasaki and he fought Sven Otka as well.
He fought Kawasaki.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Patrick. Oh, anyway, he was another guy who got robbed, I felt, out there.
Yeah.
So what about so we're saying Canelo would beat Otka. What about Kawasaki? 168 pounds, unbeaten.
Ooh.
Against
I'm
Canelo.
gonna go with Joe. I'm gonna go with Joe,
You're gonna go with Joe?
Yeah, too busy. Too many. Yeah, because the thing is, Kawasaki was like, he was really quite a big man for the weight, and because he went up to light heavy after as well, and I just think like to beat someone like Kawasaki, you'd have to knock him out, because it's very difficult to win rounds against him because of his activity, unless you knock him down in a round or whatever.
Okay. What's Kawasaki's
That's a tough one. Hopkins was a good win because Hopkins was still an active fighter, still world champion.
A unanimous win, though, do you think? I thought it was pretty close, that fight.
Yeah, but he did enough to win. Kessler.
Was that a close fight? Was it like unanimous? Was he?
Yeah. I thought, he dominated after,
Dominated? I'm not
sure.
Yeah.
After like the mid rounds.
He took a lot of punches.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what my point I'm trying to say is Kawasaki, he's a good fighter and everything else, but I think Canelo could cause him problems. I'm not saying he would win, but I think Canelo could cause him some problems.
Yeah, of course he would. Yeah.
Moving on. Carl Froch.
Canelo would beat Froch for me.
You think? Okay.
Froch is a good fighter, but I'm saying you have to have a bit more to beat.
I agree with you. And Kessler against
Canelo. Kessler,
Okay, Nigel Benn.
Well, I heard earlier that Eubank predicted Ben would win, but I think Eubank was just bigging him up, I think Canelo would beat Ben. Sorry to say, yeah.
And Eubank against Canelo?
I think it would go the distance, but I think Canelo would probably win, yeah.
And finally, Andre Ward.
Tough. That's a tough one. I would go with it would probably be a draw, but probably Ward would nick it. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. I don't know what you guys think. Is Canelo one of the best all-time 168 pounders, super middleweights out there? I'm not sure. Just want to quickly give a shout out to Pete. How you doing, Pete? Thanks for tuning in, man. My brother. Kunle, how you doing, man? Big up, Kunle. Big up for the Man United agenda. Yes, how you doing, guys? Big up Devils United. Maisie, how you doing, girl? Pete says, yeah, too big. Big guy, too busy and quick. I think talking about Kawasaki. Talking about Kawasaki. Yeah. Big up the panel, says Andy Herbert. How you doing, Andy? And Andy Herbert says, I remember Ben versus Eubank fights years ago. They were so good. Yeah. They were televised. They were on terrestrial TV.
Yeah.
So you could get up to like 10 to 20 million maybe watching these fights. So, yeah. Okay, so big fight this weekend. Hope you all tune in. We spent a lot of time on that one. So we're going to speed it up now and talk about welterweight. And here we have Porter, age 34, Sean Porter, against another 34-year-old in Crawford. This is on the 20th of November. Big fight. This is probably Crawford's biggest fight at the weight so far. Crawford's best wins. Sorry, start Porter. Porter's best. He's got a record of 31, 3 losses and 1 draw, and 17 KOs. He's never been stopped, never been KO'd. Best win was against Danny Garcia. He also had a split decision against Ugas, who beat Pacquiao recently. He's proved the Cubans proved to be good at the weight. He's also beaten Broner, but Broner's not really a welterweight. I think that's thing. And he's beaten Devin Alexander, but Devin Alexander was a bit past his best by then. But he's also, about Porter, doesn't mean anything. He's had close fights. Lost unanimous decision to Furman. That was a really good fight. Lost a split decision to Errol Spence, who was touted as one of the best. Had a serious car accident, car accident a few years ago. Went back, and then he was supposed to fight Pacquiao recently, but he came out of that fight with a retina problem, maybe, I think it was. And Brook, he lost to Kell Brook as well, Sean Porter. Yeah. We all remember that fight. That was pretty decent. Yeah. Sean Porter, he's up there. He's like, I would say he's gatekeeper. He's a bit more than that, but he's had, judging by the closeness of fights, I mean, this close fight with Spence was really close, which suggests that he can cause problems to anybody, you know? So to beat him, you have to be pretty good. So moving on to Crawford as well. He started at lightweight, even though he's tall, lean guy. He's maybe could have been a lot heavier than that. But he started at lightweight, beat Ricky Burns. I remember he came over to Scotland. Beat Ricky Burns. That was a great win. That was the first time I seen him in professionally fight. He beat Gamboa, knocked out Gamboa. Then he stepped up to light welterweight and beat Victor Postol, who was rated highly, was champ at the time. It was a beat him on points. That was a good win. That's light welterweight. Then he moved up to welterweight, beat Horn. I think it's the Australian guy who beat Pacquiao. Beat Benavidez, knocked out Amir Khan, or stopped him. Amir Khan kind of quit, and then he beat Brook in a couple of rounds recently. His most recent fight. So he's come up and stepped up in weight and got a few knockouts, but he hasn't fought the likes of Danny Garcia, Ugas, Broner, Furman, Spence, or Brook. Oh, he's just fought Brook, like Porter has. So this is a really good fight. What are your thoughts on both fighters, briefly? Just give me a little summary. And so basically I'm saying that Porter's had some tough fights. He's never been KO'd. He's had close fights with Spence, Brook, Furman, and Garcia. So what do you think Crawford has to do to sort of, because he hasn't had a big win over a big name so much at welterweight yet. What do you think Crawford has to do to really stamp his mark on the division?
Just use his skill set, because he's got a great skill set, Terence Crawford. And against a guy like Sean Porter, who's a solid welterweight and very strong at the weight, very durable, very active in every round. Like, he works every round. So you've got to be, like you say, on top of your game. You've got to be fit and everything. You can't, against a guy like Sean Porter, you can't just be laxer. You have to be really on it to beat him. But he's beatable because we've seen that he's been beaten already before quite a few times. Okay, so he's been beaten, but he's never been stopped. So I'm thinking that if Crawford was to stop him, that would sort of trump. I don't think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. That would trump what Spence have done. What's for it would. Brooks done, Ugas, Garcia, all these guys. So that would make a huge statement. I feel that Crawford, because Crawford at the moment they're saying it's up between him and Spence to be number one in the division. Spence is a bit
at the moment because of all the things, the negative things that have happened to him, and there's even like his lifestyle maybe outside the ring has been questioned. So Crawford, has been like the mainstay. But he hasn't. This is what I'm saying. Bob Arum, being on that side of the market, he hasn't really been able to fight these guys. So now that he's getting the opportunity to fight Porter, is good in a way. But then the other guys he's talking about, he's missed out on Pacquiao. Pacquiao's retired now. Danny Garcia is not the man he used to be. Ugas is not going to be, if he beats Ugas, it's not going to be seen as a great win, because all these guys, if it 2-3 years ago, Furman was on fire, Spence before he had wrote about the car crash, that would have been a great time to fight these guys. But to fight them now, I don't know. It's lost.
I still think for Crawford, the Spence fight is huge, because that's the one where everyone would say that's his biggest threat. Everyone believes Crawford would win this fight. He's going into the fight with Porter as the favorite. Spence is the one that's going to cause him the most problems, because Spence is natural at the weight, he's rangy and everything else like that. And I still think Spence, even though the car accident and all that, I still think if it comes to that fight, Spence will be up for it, and we'll see his best.
So that's the fight, the ultimate fight in this.
Yeah, that's going to be like for undisputed. I'm sure, after Crawford, I believe that he'll get past Porter, and he'll fight the Cuban guy and win. The guy beat Pacquiao, and then it'll be for the undisputed. I think all the belts on the line, but they're kind of building it up, I believe.
Hopefully, boxing politics doesn't come in the way, because I just think we need to see these fights. I think we should see these fights a few years ago. It's sort of getting past the date now, and like the lightweight division is on fire at the moment.
We've got to talk about that at some point. Yeah.
But we're not going to. It doesn't seem like we're going to see those fights. I want to see Lomachenko's fighting. I think he got signed to fight someone recently as well, and he's not one of these top guys either. And then Tanks Davis is moving up a division. It just seems like there's great guys in the division. It's like, okay, everyone gets excited, but then nothing ever happens. You don't see them fight. Really unfortunate. This is what really lets boxing down, especially when you get 4 or 5 top guys in one division. Make them all fight, Make them all.
Well, it's like the 4 Kings. They all fought each other, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Apart from Mike McCallum, who I felt should have been part of that thing.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? But it's like he was more risk than rewards, I feel. So a great example at the 4 Kings. They did fight each other, and that's why you name them the 4 Kings to this day, because they proved their status. They proved, all guys come out looking sweet in the end of the day, because they're all legends. But unfortunately, so I think Crawford, at 34 years old, time's running out for him to really sort of maximize his potential. And I think he should be desperate, and saying to Bob Arum or whoever that he should be desperate to get these fights on, because it's getting too late. And the thing is, even now, if he beats them guys, I'm still saying, well, Spence had the accident. I still say, Furman's finished.
Well, to be honest, like, he was undisputed at light welterweight, and that's a huge achievement to be undisputed in his division, and he's stepping up to welterweight. So if he does get to be undisputed, if he does beat these guys, I'll give him all the credit in the world. I'm not going to say, this guy was that. I think if he steps up to that division and be undisputed, he's got to be given his dues.
Just quickly, bro, do you think Errol Spence is still a force?
Errol Spence is still a what, sorry?
Force.
Yeah. Because he had 2 fights since his accident. He fought Danny Garcia and
Porter.
Someone else. Yeah.
Porter.
And to me, they're solid welterweights. Danny Garcia, I know you don't rate him, but I've always thought he's good. He's quite durable. He throws good punches and everything. He's never been knocked down. I think that was a good win. And Porter's always going to be a good win if you're able.
I think Danny Garcia. I think at welterweight, I don't think he's that effective. He's not really knocking guys out. Knocked out Eric Morales and Amir Khan. They're both small. Well, Eric Morales is a lot smaller and older. Amir Khan is skinny. So since then, even though he needs to. I think it's over for him anyway. I just think with Danny Swift, I just think he needed a bit more from him. I don't think you're going to get that at welterweight. A bit like Broner at welterweight. I don't think these guys can really have the size or the power to really do anything damage. But just a few things here. Got Pete saying James Toney would have Mayweathered him, talking about Canelo, but with more power, and Jones would be Jones against Canelo. This is from Matt, Football United TV. He says Canelo will do a number on Plant. We both agree, don't we, bro?
Yeah.
And the guy is proper classy, concentration levels like Usyk. I agree with you there. Crawford is a good fighter, quick too. Yeah, totally. So yeah,
Canelo's. He's quite slow starter in some fights. He does take his time to get into the fight, but Caleb Plant is a good boxer. He's quite slick, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does go the distance.
So just a question here from Matt saying, guys, do you think Chris Eubank Jr. will ever win a title? We discussed it the other day. Has a great trainer now, but always seems to fail at the last hurdle. So what do you think about that quickly before we move on?
I think if he hasn't done it by now, I don't think he'll get to do it, unless it's like one of those ones where like it was a George Grove situation where it's for a vacant title and he gets a lucky guy who just, that it could be easy. I just don't see him doing it at the moment.
Okay. And do you think he could step up super middleweight and challenge, say, Canelo, for example?
No. He'll go the distance, but I don't think he'll win.
Okay, got Turf Morehouse. How you doing, TV? Says, hey guys, hope you're well. Canelo surely has this by KO. Yeah, we do agree. So we're saying Canelo would win this against Plant and Porter Crawford in the 20th of November. That's a big fight as well. We both feel Crawford, don't we, bro? Maybe on points. I'm saying on points, but if he was to knock out Porter, he'd be the first man to stop him, and that would make a huge statement, I believe. So if I was Crawford, I would be hoping. Because that his legacy would go up tenfold if we could knock out Porter, who's known as like tough guy to beat in that division. Anyway, and we move. Thank you so for the comments, guys. Here we go. Last one here's saying, yeah, Crawford is a beast. Yeah, we've got some knowledgeable fans in here. Know how it goes. Anyway, bro, we discussed the up and coming fights. Now we're just gonna have a little conversation about something we both discussed the other day. We both noticed. We both watched. It's about our man AJ Anthony Joshua. Now we've seen him fight down at York all that time, didn't we? We followed his career. He's obviously, when he first started fighting, he was walking through guys, punching through guys. Yeah, kind of rushed his level. He's always fought top guys. As soon as he won the belt, he's fought in quite high caliber of opposition. And then he's been having to learn on the job, kind of. So whereas before he used to use his power and knock people out and walk through people, took a knockdown against Vlad, took a bit of a schooling, I felt. I did say to you at the time, do you remember me saying to you that I thought that was the end of AJ? He's never, because of the reaction to the fight, I felt that he didn't take the knockdown too well. And I thought that he's psychologically messed with his head. And then obviously he's gone on and lost to Ruiz when no one expected that. I think he was a bit embarrassed by that fight. And then after the Vlad fight, he fought against Parker, didn't he? And he fought like a more cautious fight. Saying, I'm a boxer puncher, sort of thing. Then he fought Ruiz, and then he got knocked out while he was trying. He knocked the guy down, and he went to go finish him off, and with the same combination, and the guy slicked him and hit him, and then the fight was virtually done after they got dropped. Took a few rounds, but he was done with. And then he came back in the rematch and sort of boxed stiff, but long, and not the sort of AJ we know, the sort of guy who goes in there thinking he's Tyson. He described, this is what I'm saying, there's a lot of contradictions, because before, not contradictions, but not being sure of what he is or his identity, what sort of fighter he is. Because before he used to say, his favorite fight was Tyson, he used to sort of do all this thing, and he's sort of always got his top off, and always, when you get that sort of ego from punching through guys and knocking everyone out, it gives you, I'm not surprised, and then you're lacking on skill. So he's lost to Ruiz, come back, played a bit safety first, then started getting his confidence back, and then now he's gone and lost.
The Pulev thing. So the Ruiz rematch, he got his top titles back. Then he fought Pulev. Everyone thought that was a good performance, and then he's gone on to fight Usyk, and he got outboxed. So he got out, and he nearly got stopped. And he nearly got stopped. So there's question marks also maybe about his chin. So the other day he done a big interview with Kugan Cassius, and my question to you is: has he turned heel? Now, when I say heel, people don't understand. There's babyface and heel. This is in wrestling, and I think it's in most sports.
This is what they do this in wrestling because it gets the crowd on your side. It's like the good against evil. So the heel is the bad guy, the Ric Flairs, the bad guys who get the crowd angry, the grannies in this front row, get them angry, get people upset. And it's there. If you get a good pop, that's a good thing. But you can play the bad guy, like Mayweather said in the past. He played the bad guy because he knows it sells tickets, that sort of thing. I think AJ's always been like a baby face. You see him with pictures with grannies, doing a nice guy thing, you know, and trying to be too nice and everything else. Occasionally showing a little streak of, you know, heel kind of attitude, but it's been very rare. So now, after he's lost, after this interview, I sense the heel came out in him because he's talking about gangsters, like talking about these American gangsters who he sort of looks up to. And these guys are in prison. I'm sure these same gangsters wouldn't be endorsing that sort of mentality now or that kind of thing. So just makes me think, hold on, AJ, you're talking about gangsters, but then I thought you were promoting something. So I thought, okay, I don't mind if that's the new AJ. You're going to come out with this thing. Then he's saying doing all that, you know, with the people to say F you, if you know, whatever. So there's a lot of big heel change going on here. So what do you get out of the interview? Because we did discuss this. What do you think about AJ's psychological thing right now? How's he feeling right now? What's he going through to be having all these sort of changes?
I see he's like a walking contradiction. And, you know, Dylan said it years ago before their first fight, how much of a fraud he is, like his media boxing persona and how he is in person. And no one was really paying attention to that. But we've seen signs of it, you know, and it's not like you I mean, you were talking about a heel change, but he's been disrespectful before when, you know, when he had that interview before the second Ruiz fight, when he was saying about Lennox being disrespectful to a guy like Lennox Lewis, what he's done in British boxing, his legacy, calling Lennox Lewis a clown, you know, and ignoring Lennox's advice about getting a new trainer and everything, and what Lennox leaves the analogy about, you know, teacher level going to university and evolving and things like this. And now, a couple of years later, it looks like he's getting a new trainer. These things like that, it's just like, there's so many things. I could write a list as long as my arm about how many times he's contradicted himself about things that he said. You know, before in the past, I just like the knockouts. And then when after the Klitschko fight, he's beating Park, he's talking about the sweet science and stuff like that. And, you know, there's so many things that I think he's so kind of confused between. It's like he wants to be a people pleaser, and I think even what's his name commenting on it, just about his entrance to the ring against Usyk, about him trying to, you know, be in touch with the crowd. When you're boxing, it's like you've got to have that kind of tunnel vision, that focus. It's not like a Rocky movie and, you know, you're, you know, raving to the crowd and things like that. He's
like
trying
Apollo when he died.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You've got to be serious. You've got to be serious. You saw what happened to Apollo. So and I just think he's just very confused right now because Eddie Hearn's tried to promote him to be this type of person, and he talks about his background being from the streets and all this, and now exactly, you know, where he comes from, and he just seems really confused, and I think he just needs to find his identity, who he is, because he did mention in the interview. He's like to Kugan, people said I couldn't box and then blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like, that just shows how affected you are about what people say.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I'm saying. Was Mayweather ever effective when people say, oh, you just run and you just run? No. Mayweather was just like, look, this is what I do. I stick to what I do. I'm a defensive, slick boxer. He's not going to change his style and think, oh, well, people think of saying this. Oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to show people that I have to box. And this is the problem.
That's another thing. Sorry, in the interview, he did come out and say, I'm going to have to go out there and tough it out. And don't worry if I get hit or that kind of thing. Mano. That's the sort of thing. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. You can't do that. You changed your style to come away from that because you got knocked out.
Yeah.
And you nearly got knocked out a few times, you know. So are you sure you want to be doing that? You know,
Yeah.
but he's also sort of disrespecting maybe his trainer because he's saying, I soak up information, I get told what to do, and I just do what they ask me to do, and that kind of thing. So where does it come in where he said, well, actually, I need because I need to do what's good for me, or I need to just pump this guy up or whatever. So he's just taking instructions. When you got people like Chris Eubank Jr., for example, we talked about that earlier, he wouldn't do that. He'd just do what he wants to do. It's a fight, you know? And that's what I'm saying. It's a fight out there. He's got to do what he has to do to win, whatever. So that means roughing the guy up, or talk about Usyk maybe in a rematch, roughing him up and trying something different, you know? But like you said, seems to be a lot of contradictions with him. I like AJ. I want him to do well, but I frown sometimes about his lack of IQ, which I perceive as lack of IQ in boxing. You're new to the game. He's realizing now how brutal the sport is and how difficult it is. But just going to ask a few questions here, bro. Eddie Hearn, this is Turf Morehouse. He says Eddie Hearn hasn't given AJ the freedom to sort his own camp, get men of deep boxing experience. It's tough, but he's becoming a cash cow for Eddie Hearn. That's a really good point. AJ has a good chance of winning. It's from Matt. AJ has a good chance of winning second, but he does feel that Usyk, who states he was only 7 out of 10 on that win, he will be much better and will outbox AJ, who will most likely go steaming in from the start. And we know with stamina issues as well, there might be a problem for AJ to do. Fury, Usyk, we come on to Fury in a bit, is a closest fight that we have. AJ is a classy sportsman, a role model, but when it comes to getting down to getting the job done, he seems to pick the hard route. Bit of laughter about your Apollo comment here, bro. And Pete says, remember when he said, this is about AJ, remember when he said about Fury after Fury beat Vlad, I would never box like that, and I would fight on the front foot, and how the tables have turned. Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying about contradictions. He said that. Exactly. It's called Leonard the Clown, and now he's going to America, touring America, begging for training.
Exactly.
You know, so maybe he hasn't been getting the right advice, you know.
Yeah.
Andy Herbert says AJ's last fight, let's be honest, was he was slow in that fight. But I do agree with your brother there on Monday about AJ. Yes. Talking said okay, good stuff. So what else are we saying here? So getting hurt against Vlad, changing in longevity. He wanted to have more longevity, didn't he? But after Vlad, he sort of changed his style. The Joseph Parker fight. Tried to be when he could have maybe knocked him out if he had that same mentality as before. And the safety first against Parker. Can he get rough again, or is it too late? What about his punch resistance? What about his stamina? Does he too many question marks in his head? He doubts now what he can actually do. You know, and all this thing as well. You think to yourself, I used to think, how can a guy be so 6'5", 6'6", so pumped and thing, and then gasses so easy? You talked about Apollo earlier, but Apollo lost to a Drago, and maybe is AJ like a Drago, where he's a manufactured sort of guy, and Drago blew. If he couldn't take a body punch, maybe he was taking some things that he shouldn't be taking, and didn't have the stamina, even though he looked impressive, everything else. So there's so many factors to AJ that question marks about him, and I think when you are protected. You're never going to scratch the surface and see any of this because it's all hidden. But I just think I'm just judging by character, his indecisive behavior with his comments and all this kind of thing, and losing. Losing does a lot to a man in boxing. Yeah. So I'm not sure about his longevity, his chin, stamina. There's a lot of question marks about him. Any final thoughts on AJ from the interview?
Not a lot to say, really. We'll just see what happens here. I still think he could have a good future if he gets the right trainer. Obviously, it's a good decision for him to get a new trainer, definitely. I think he did get someone. He added someone to his training camp for the Ruiz rematch, and he said he's had some awkward conversations with Rob McCracken. So the writing's on the wall. But if he employs the right strategy in the fight against Usyk, he could do well. But I'm not 100% confident on him winning, because now that Usyk's got that win over him and Usyk knows he's nearly stopped him, the confidence is with Usyk, because Usyk could do a lot more things. He probably hasn't shown everything that he could do, And I think in moments in the fight, AJ could have moments where has a flurry or everything else like that. But Usyk can know him, how to time him, how to make him tired and gas him out and things like that. So
and this comes from experience. I mean, Usyk's got a while of amateur fights.
Yeah, you look what he did for Joe Joyce, inspiring with Vladimir. He's used to fighting big guys. So it's going to be very difficult for AJ, you know.
So do you think, Chris, quickly before we round up, do you think AJ's wise to take the rematch straight away? Or
He has to, because you can't not take the rematch, because that just shows you're not hungry to win your titles back.
Certainly parallels with Rocky, I think. I'm thinking that, like, in Rocky 3, when Rocky lost to Clubber Lang, he went and seeked out Apollo. And I think Lennox should be going. AJ maybe should go and seek out Lennox and let Lennox take him to Jamaica or one of his rough gyms in America and get that Eye of the Tiger back and that kind of thing, you know.
He needs to apologize first.
You know, who's the clown now? You know,
exactly.
And at the end of it, they should go and have a little spar, you know, and finish off the movie. But anyway, let's move on. AJ, we wish you luck, man. Get yourself together. And whether you're a heel or whether you're a babyface, wherever you decide to do your character, if you want to say F you to the whole world and just be this ruthless MO, then go ahead and just do what you need to do. But just whatever you do, be consistent with it. You know, if you're coming with things, if you've got a foundation, who you are, that's who you are, and that's you don't change for anybody. But anyway, I suppose he's grown up in the spotlight, you know, a bit like Michael Jackson, and it's been like everything's just out there exposed. Anyway, lastly, we're talking about the champ, Tyson Fury. He recently won the trilogy. We've gone over that in the last few shows. Won the trilogy against Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
Old news now. We've been there, done that. We agree it was a great trilogy and a great ending. But finally, so we're just going to discuss Dillian Whyte, because apparently the WBC ordered that Dillian Whyte should fight Fury. So there's a couple questions, bro. Firstly, who do you think Whyte? Because he's been in the background a lot. He's always fought these top guys recently until he lost to Povetkin, and he came back and beat him again. But he's been to Chisora, all these top guys. He's had tough challenges. Who do you think he stands? Because now he's got to fight Fury. He's gone that route. But out of Fury, Wilder, AJ, and Usyk, who do you think his best chance of beating one of these guys is? Well, who do you think he could beat out of them? If he could beat any of them, who would be his best opportunity against?
Probably AJ.
Explain.
He's fought AJ before, so once you fought someone before, you know what you could do better next time. And he's hurt AJ before. He's got that psychological thing where he could get under AJ's skin, you know, because of their history and the first amateur bout, which he won, and everything else like that. I just think with the other guys, it's too unknown. I think Usyk would be too much for him skill-wise.
I agree.
You know, White's a late starter in boxing, just like AJ is. And Wilder will probably knock him out. And Fury, I think, when Fury's on it, no one could really touch him, to be honest.
So AJ against Whyte. I mean, I look at it, I'm sizing it up, and I kind of see it going the same way as the Chisora versus Fury second fight. I just think Fury, on his day, could sort of put on a masterclass and outbox him.
So Fury could outbox Whyte. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think Fury, Fury's second fight against Chisora, which was just like, what do I do?
Yes,
use his reach, use his size.
I agree.
You know, it's just completely outbox him. I
feel like though with Fury is that I think he wants to get out the game. I think he's only wants the big fights. When he was making his comeback after that 3-year absence, he was saying the names of the guys that he wanted to fight. And Wilder and AJ were the two main guys, you know. And he wanted to do that and just kind of get out of the game and just prove that he's the best of this era. So whenever he's fought any kind of lesser opposition, you saw with Otto Wallin, it wasn't a great performance from Fury. Dillian Whyte, I just think with Fury, he needs to be motivated. He needs a big name to really motivate him. And I think with Dillian Whyte, if he's not on it, it could be a potential banana skin because he needs to be really mentally on it and, you know, motivated to beat him.
Yeah. So, because like what I found with Tyson Fury, He's beaten the likes of Wilder and Vladimir, who were like top tier at the time, best guys maybe in the division. But then it's the level of opposition, and you go, so is there no one in between, like the Dylan White sort of standard that he's beat Dora? But beyond that, I think there's
and that's what I'm saying. He's only had one title defense.
Contrast between the levels he's fighting. So can he get up for these guys?
Exactly,
I do agree.
Exactly.
Where's his motivation?
Yeah,
he needs to feel scared maybe, or feel like, oh my god, this is a dangerous fight.
That's exactly
really
it.
I think AJ could do that to him.
Yeah,
and I think Wilder obviously done that, to get up.
Yeah,
for this sort of fight.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. He might not see him as a threat, but I think Dylan, if you're not on your game, he could cause not upset. But I think he will be, because Fury's a smart man. But I just know that these things can happen in boxing. I remember when Lennox Lewis beat David Tua, it was a great performance, and everyone was saying how much of a threat Tua was because of his hook and everything and his haircut. But then the next fight, he fought Hasim Rahman, and Lewis got knocked out. And he was doing a movie in between, and I just think if Lewis was really up for the fight and everything, if he was fully focused, he would win that fight. 9 times out of 10, he does. But this is what happens if he's kind of waiting on the Tyson fight psychologically. Fury could be waiting on AJ. So it's a potential banana skin if he's not.
He makes some really good points, I think, because it's psychological, isn't it? Getting up and fighting, that kind of thing. And one thing as well with Fury, he's not had many title defenses. He's lineal champion. Everything else, meaning, but he lose that when he lose that sort of mythical title once he loses the fight. But he hasn't lost. He's still unbeaten. But how many title defense? He's only had one title defense in all this time. Because obviously when he beat Vladimir, he went off into the wilderness. And some, whatever happened to him. But that's an interesting fight. I just quickly want to ask you, forget about, I know Tyson Fury beats himself. This is what we're trying to say. But how, on a sort of boxing level, how can you see any way, from what you've seen from White, how he could, if you were coaching him, how can you beat Tyson Fury? What would you be coaching him to do? What's the, forget about the psychological side of things, the boxing side of things. How do you think Dylan White could beat Tyson Fury?
He's just got to kind of try to stay on top of him, and be very aggressive. Don't give Tyson Fury time to get into his fight, his kind of groove. I think that's the only time we have good moments against Fury. I mean, you look at Wilder, the last fight. Wilder straight away was aggressive. He couldn't sustain it, but he came with something new, going to the body.
In the first round.
First round, keeping him out, at bay, and then things like that. You've got to stay on top of Fury, because if you allow him to get in his rhythm, it's finished. Okay.
I'm thinking about it myself, and I think, well, Dylan White is too upright, got a good jab, but, got a good hook to the body, and a good left hook as well. He sort of really digs it in. Got good mentals as well, where he would try his best to win. You can see that. But I just can't. I just think he's all wrong. Fury's all wrong for him. As much as I think, what's the best way to win? I don't think he can outbox him. And I do agree, you probably have to be a bit aggressive and maybe hit him to the body and sort of rough him up. And, I don't know. I just struggle. I'm struggling in my mindset. I can't see a way how Dylan White could win. And I like Dylan White a lot. I really do like him. His attitude. I think he's come a long way. I think he's got a good desire. And I think he's a winner. He wants to win, and he works hard for it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I agree with you. I think his best opportunity would be against AJ, and if I was him and his team, I would be seeking that revenge in that fight rather than going the WBC route. Yeah. But anyway, it's nearly up to an hour. We've covered 4 subjects tonight. We went 4 rounds. Are you tired? I am. I don't know if I can go 4 rounds like that. I haven't got the stamina anymore, bro. But we've done four topics tonight. We're going to be back soon. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Is there anything you want to finish off with, bro? Anything about, you haven't changed your mind? You're still saying Crawford's going to win? Still think Canelo's going to win this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a full conclusion that Canelo will get the KO. I honestly, I think Caleb could actually get the distance, maybe, but Canelo will definitely win.
I'm saying Canelo's going to knock him out in under 7 rounds. I really think so. I just don't think this guy. I think this guy is not. It's like fighting at this level, and then suddenly you got to fight something at this level. And I've not seen enough experience from him. I think he's there to get that body shots and everything else. Once he starts feeling all that from Canelo, who's probably at his peak right now, I think he's got to stop him and he'd like do like Billy Joe Saunders maybe and sort of almost throw in a towel or just say, I don't know if I really can handle this, you know. It's a tough proposition for anyone coming up against Canelo at the moment, the way he's performing. And there's not many, apart from Benavidez, sorry. I don't think there's many others in the division. So, yeah, it's Canelo's night, I'd say. So on that note, we're going to sign out. Thanks, bro, again. High five. You know, and thanks for everyone. Anthony, Herbert, Pete, how you doing? Matty again. Let's see. Turf Moore, how you doing, man? Morehouse. Thanks all you guys. I hope I haven't missed anybody. Devils United, Kunle, and all you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to tune in again. This is the Ringside Seat. My name's Amondi Juma, and I'm here with my brother Kahinde, and we'll be back soon. God bless you guys. Take care.